Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to go over how to set up your GL account mapping on Cryptoworth. Where you want to go is the accounts page on Cryptoworth followed by the apps tab. So let's go over there. Now, in my example, I have QuickBooks connected, but if you have any other accounting software connected, it'll be the same principle. So you have a view button that's in blue. You will want to click that to navigate to the GL account mapping page. So this is the chart of account mapping page in Cryptoworth. The purpose of this page is to map your GL accounts from your general ledger to Cryptoworth. So that way, one side of the journal entry for all your transactions will always map to the default account that you have in this page. So I'll explain the different levels of accounts that you can map. So we have 3 levels of granularity here. We have default level mapping, asset level mapping, and connection level mapping. Default level mapping focuses in one GL account, the synchronization of all your crypto transactions into one bucket. We also have asset level mapping. So this is if you want to have a GL account per asset in your balance sheet. So for example, Bitcoin, USDC, different GL accounts per asset, or at least by primary assets. So you can do a hybrid of 2 or more levels of mapping. You have that ability on Cryptoworth. And then finally, we have connection level mapping. So connection level mapping is the most granular level of mapping because not only can you map your GL accounts by wallet or exchange account that you have connected to Cryptoworth, but you can also map assets within each connection. So you can actually have GL accounts by asset per connection, which will entail more GL account maintenance if you have that. However, you will have the highest level of specificity for each GL account in your general ledger software. So let's go over and explain each one more in detail. So default level mapping is the bare minimum account mapping that you'll have to do. If you're not going to be more granular, this is the starting ground. Now, default level mapping requires a default gain loss account, a default fee account for your network fees or exchange fees. So they have to book into an equivalent account. So on the left side is focused on the Cryptoworth accounts. On the right-hand side, it's focused on your general ledger accounts. So if we click on the dropdown and then click on edit, we can actually see the chart of accounts from QuickBooks in my example, or in your example, your general ledger software. So this is where you would map one-to-one the accounts accordingly. The NFT account is optional. You don't have to map it. If you want to see your NFTs in your balance sheet in your fiat general ledger, you can do so by mapping it to an NFT account. And then finally, your default asset account. So if you're mapping all your crypto assets to a general account, for example, a crypto global account, this is where you would map it. So default asset account, what account is that going to be? Well, I mapped it to my chart of accounts on QuickBooks to default crypto account. Once you have these account mappings complete, your minimum level mapping is done. Now, if you'll notice at the bottom, you have all the account mappings for your chart of accounts that you imported from your general ledger software. In my instance, I imported these accounts directly from QuickBooks. Now, if you import your chart of accounts from another software like QuickBooks, Xero, NetSuite, Pennylane, etc., they will automatically map one-to-one. So you don't have to take any action here. So you see default crypto account. You don't have to take any action here. There are extra options that we'll just spend a little bit of time on so you can understand what they are. You do have the option to map bank accounts at the classification or GL account level. This is if you want to synchronize bank payments to these accounts as opposed to journal entries if you're attaching invoices or bills and wanting to mark them as paid. So that's an extra option. And then you even have the ability to tie and assign an ERP class or department to a specific classification. So this is totally under your control. Moving to the asset level mapping tab. This is one step more granular than your default level mapping. So if you have GL accounts by assets, or at least by primary assets, maybe you're holding a lot of Bitcoin in your balance sheet. You want that represented under a Bitcoin account. Well, this is where you would map it. So you would click on map asset, search for the asset in question, and then map it to your equivalent GL account in your accounting software. So once you do that, you can actually save it and complete it. And just like in the default level mapping, we actually have the ability to map the bank account as well at the asset level. If you want to reconcile bank payments that you paid in Bitcoin or USDC, maybe you're paying your vendors in cryptocurrency, well, you can reconcile those invoices and bills by mapping the bank account by asset. This is an option for you if you want. Moving on to connection level mapping. This is the most granular form of GL account mapping that you can have. Now, what's important to keep in mind with connection level mapping is if you take this strategy, most of the time for standard practice, you would typically have all your connections mapped, if not a certain amount of them for any particular reason. But if you want to do cost basis by connection and synchronize cost basis by connection into your external general ledger software like QuickBooks, Xero, NetSuite, etc., then you want to have all your connections mapped at the connection level, including exchanges and wallets. So this is a very important distinction. If you want to do cost basis by the account or connection level, then that means you have to map your GL accounts by connection. Now, of course, this becomes laborious if you have, let's say, 200 wallets. That is a lot of GL accounts to create. So this is a strategy that you want to formalize with your accounting firm, your professional accounting firm, or tax advisor. If you want to map your connections by GL account, you would click on Map Connections. Since I already mapped my wallet, I can simply go to the drop down here, click on View so I can view what has been mapped in this menu. So you'll see that you can tie the wallet or exchange account that you want to map and assign it to a specific GL account that represents that account in your general ledger software. So here, for example, let's say I want to map it to this GL account. In reality, you probably want to have, let's say, wallet A in Cryptoworth should match the name in your GL account in your general ledger software. This is the required mapping that has to be done. Everything else is optional here. So you can actually map the bank account. You can map a wallet or exchange specific gain loss account if you wanted that level of granularity, fee account, even NFTs to a specific connection. So you have a lot of control on exactly how the journal entries book into the external general ledger. You even have the option to map the assets within the connection. So you can click on that asset, search for the assets in question, let's say Ethereum. So essentially you would map the default account for Ethereum within this specific connection. So this is if you really wanted that level of granularity in the external general ledger. Now, let's say you don't have this level of granularity in the general ledger account mapping. You will always have this level of granularity in Cryptoworth. So this is merely talking about the optionality of granularity into your external general ledger software. Now, we also have the ability to map unrealized gain or loss at the connection, asset, or default level. So at the connection level, you can map your default credit and debit account, which should be equivalent to the default account within your wallet. And then the gain loss account would be the wallet level unrealized gain or loss account if you have that GL account in your external general ledger. If you want to map unrealized gain or loss at the asset level, that would be within the unrealized gain or loss account mapping section. So here you can map unrealized gain or loss at the asset level or at the default level. So this is a thorough walkthrough of your general account mapping options.